Cancel.
Okay, it's streaming live on YouTube.
Yep. Oh, it is. You're streaming live on YouTube, and am I back as being host?
All right, it looks like it's working. So I'm going to switch. Kathy, you'll be host again, and we'll see what
Okay.
happens. Oh, I got to do it on the other computer. All right.
Janet said the other congregation doesn't like anointed by God.
Yeah, we're alternating, she said. So
Oh, we're alternating.
Look at the words.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at it. I just wondered if she had failed to replace that one anointed by God with the empowered by love.
Jessica, am I back?
Okay, very good.
Looks like.
Well, we're still live on YouTube. And let me see, where's Susie? There she is.
So it looks like it's working.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave that screen on, which means I can't talk, but I can chat. So if you need anything, you can chat me, and I'll be able to respond.
Okay, I've made Jessica into a co-host. I'm sorry, I've made Susie into a co-host.
Great.
And is the Great Hall a co-host? That's the only one I didn't check off.
No.
Yeah, I made it into a co-host so that you'll be up on our screens.
Okay.
So would you guys check that all the people who are in our thing are co-hosts?
Yeah, let's see.
Unitarian Society is not yet a co-host.
Co-host. Nope.
Okay, these should show, and Jessica, we don't need, and your monitor, we don't need. My monitor, we don't need. Great Hall, we need to make a co-host. Oh, it is a co-host. Okay.
It is, yep. So that looks like everything is a co-host.
Okay, so Janet, we're ready here whenever you think it's okay to start letting people in.
Thank William. I think, where's my buddy?
William's off.
Yeah, I do think it's good to let people in now.
Okay, let's go. Yep.
Yeah.
And
I know, that's because.
break a leg, everyone. Mute yourself. Mute me.
Rebecca.
Hello, David.
Hi, Noelle.
Hi.
Hi, Kim.
How is the dog?
Who's dog?
She's well enough. She's okay.
Oh, really? Good.
She's hanging in there. Noelle, do you mind if I change your name to Noelle?
Huh?
There's no.
It says no. It says owner, I think.
Oh,
Hi,
no.
Flora.
So Rebecca, can we change your name from Rebecca Zoom just to Rebecca?
No. It must stay as it is.
I couldn't resist.
Michael,
I give Rebecca Zoom.
devilish look in your eye.
Yeah.
Hi, Georgia.
Michael, I hear your voice.
Where have you gone, Georgia?
Nowhere.
There you are.
Into the painting.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, Allison.
Okay.
Good morning.
Trying to turn us into, there we go.
This is
better.
Laura. How are you?
Good morning, everyone.
I want to say
Hi,
Hi,
Sarah.
Rebecca. No,
Hi.
Hi, Flora.
Oh, Michael.
Oh, there's David.
Emily.
Catherine,
Hi,
yes.
Flora.
Hi, Flora.
Janet.
Flora.
Bill. Oh, Gil. Yes, of course.
Jill
Yeah.
and Evelyn, good morning.
Oh, Greg, welcome. Maybe that's a friend from Florida.
Where?
There's
Where?
I'm speaking to Greg Stewart, who I didn't recognize in, so he might be one of the people from the Florida congregation from Tallahassee. We've got
He's
He is?
nodding yes.
Okay.
Wow.
G6.
Huh. Hi, Dave.
Sally
Maybe.
Weiss.
Probably hotter
Can you
there.
hear me?
I just sent you an email.
Ooh.
Sarah, you have a mask on, aren't you home?
No, I'm in the Great Hall. Actually, I'm one of the hymn singing quartets. We're all very spaced out in the Great Hall.
Okay.
I am wearing
Oh,
the
there we
resonance
are.
mask.
Oh,
It's one you're supposed to be able to sing in.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, it's
Whoa.
it's it's not bad. It's much less muffled than wearing a cloth mask.
Can you breathe okay?
Yeah.
Good. That's the thing I have trouble with the masks.
Well, if you notice, this one sticks out.
Yeah.
It has a little rigid structure underneath that gives you a breathing space.
Whoa.
That's good.
Kind
Does
of
it
cool.
have a microphone in it?
No, no, no.
Well, that gives me hope that someday we'll get back to singing together.
Right, hopefully.
Okay.
I
Of
certainly
course we
hope so.
will.
Good
Absolutely.
morning, everyone.
Hi,
Hi, Kim.
Robin.
Hi.
Hello, Amy and Linda.
What? I changed it.
Hey, Andrea and Molly.
Hi, Dave.
Hello, Susan.
Hi,
Like,
Robin and Linda.
Why can't I be seen?
We can see your nose and above.
It's because you're
Noel, does your
invisible now,
name just have
Noel.
one L in it?
Hi, Billings.
Hello.
Oh,
there. Top of
this-
your face,
this-
Noel.
this-
Huh?
you
I'm
have a sit-
disappeared. Oh,
There you go.
There you go.
I can see you now, Noel.
I
Noel, does your name just have one L in it?
it does, but it has an umlaut on the first. Just leave it like that.
Umlaut. God, who knows how to do a Zoom umlaut?
Yeah, I don't know if I can find
Yeah,
it.
right.
Umlaut.
Where's the umlaut?
Well,
that
it would
makes
be
it
over
loud.
the
On the
E.
first E, on the first E, but
You
this
need a
is,
tech expert.
Oh.
just leave it, no umlaut.
Well, my daughter's
Okay.
name has an umlaut as well, Noel. So I'm
What?
very familiar with the umlaut
no,
problem.
we're lacking umlaut. Gosh.
3 pages full of us.
It seems
like
there are more important things in the world right now.
Yeah, who gives it? Mm-hmm. Umlaut
like
or not?
chirping
Oh
birds
my
this
God,
morning.
yeah.
Chirping birds.
Rebecca, where are you? Oh, there you are.
Hi, Georgia.
Laura,
Hi,
it's
Mom.
Molly. Hi. Hi, Georgia.
Oh, here is.
Where are
oh,
you?
this
There's
is
Molly.
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 I'd love to see you.
Molly.
Hi,
Whoa.
Ah,
Oh,
Here we go.
Ah,
Oh, already?
okay.
okay.
Stop video.
We're going to Florida, everybody.
I bet
I'm ready.
Way too warm down there.
well, there are people from Tallahassee who have joined.
Hello from Florida.
Yeah, I'm from Florida. We need to get a word in edgewise here.
Because we're ending chat.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. What do I do? Okay. End chat. Okay.
And I want to turn off.
No, turn it off.
Hi, Noel.
Oh, hi.
Sing something today. Be sure to.
Get a pie for lunch. Have lunch. So after 1:30 maybe.
Oh, that's the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
Our service is about to begin. Please turn off your videos and make sure you're muted. You will be invited to turn your video back on during the greeting.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our special collaborative worship service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence and the UU Church of Tallahassee. I'm the Reverend William Levewood, minister here in Tallahassee. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am so glad to see you all this morning. In our congregations, we strive to welcome people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Those values and principles move us today to remember that we in Tallahassee inhabit unceded land that was once home to Alachua peoples, more commonly known as the Muskogee, and that those in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtic and Nipmuc peoples. And not only do we inhabit this unceded land of indigenous peoples, but in Tallahassee, in Northampton, and all over this nation, indigenous peoples continue to be within and amongst us, making up about 6 million people, or almost 2% of the US population. We remind ourselves this morning to acknowledge our responsibility to face all the painful legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we affirm and celebrate those legacies that inspire us towards our highest ideals. We are so excited to be worshiping together, joining these two congregations this morning.
Thank you, William. I'm Janet Bush. I'm the minister at the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And this morning's service is a celebration of the collaboration between our two congregations and among congregations all across the country to UU the vote. It's also an opportunity to remind ourselves of some of the pieces of that legacy that William mentioned, that we do affirm and that do form us. to remind ourselves of our common covenants, our common roots, our common love of our Unitarian Universalist faith traditions. If any of you are new this morning or new-ish at the Northampton or Tallahassee congregations, welcome, welcome, welcome. We hope you'll return next week at our regular worship times, which are 10 o'clock in Northampton and 11 a.m. in Tallahassee. And now we will begin our service by singing together. Please rise in body or spirit wherever you are and join in.
Join me this morning as we light our chalice. I'll first light the chalice here. Feel free to light chalices if you have them at home. Mine is not cooperating this morning, but we'll get there. There we go. Show that. You'll see in a moment on your screen the words to say together. I'll lead you in these words. Let's say them together now. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together. We welcome now those from our UU The Vote campaign to share with you about our collaboration.
Good morning. I am talking about what our partnership meant to us. Essentially, it meant everything. As you well know, the stakes are high and getting higher every day in this upcoming election. Our members wanted badly to help, but from home and together. So we were really fortunate to connect with the Massachusetts USNF team, who had begun their efforts in February. We started in June. They shared names of organizations, descriptions of programs, and contacts. they shared essential knowledge with us. Their lead, Dave Reutman, encouraged our group to decide on our preferences. His ongoing timely updates were amazing for both knowledge and inspiration. Inspiration is another essential part of what our partnering meant to us. UU The Vote's website listed the jaw-dropping film Suppressed, underpinning one of our church services led by voting expert Nancy Sardison, another expert from USNF congregants, to build more inspiration and motivation. We thank her. Our team has currently sent out over 3,500 postcards and counting to people of color at first in 4 swing states and now to returning citizens. All of these cards highlighting personalized messages to assist them to vote. Through these partners and others, we have helped people also get their essential knowledge and inspiration to vote in this very crucial election. Our team is incredibly grateful for all the partners' assistance for us to stay safe while raising up people's voices for their vote to be heard. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dave Reutman, and I'd like to invite you to reflect with me about what the story of Florida's returning citizens means for our democracy. Let's take a moment together to think about Amendment 4, how Florida citizens organized to overturn the Jim Crow law that prevented returning citizens, that's people who have served hard time, from voting. And then the long battle in the courts. And now it turns out that only those who've paid their debts can vote. But the story's not over. Let's also think about the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. They've raised over $4.5 million, enough to pay almost half of returning citizen debt. The Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, look them up. And also the postcarding our 2 congregations have done, with dozens of folks sending hundreds of cards to returning citizens who have paid their fees, encouraging them to vote. The questions still remain for me. What are the impulses that lead to voter suppression laws? How do I face someone responding to these impulses? How do I listen to them? And so I think of John Lewis and thousands of others then and today, how they face people who are about to do them harm, and how at their best they don't judge or hate, instead always seeking to love. What's going on there? That question remains for me, but one question is answered. What will we do when we see injustice? We will act powerfully and together whenever and however we can to help society on its long arc of history towards justice. That's just what we do. And so I want to thank our Tallahassee friends for letting us know about Lift Every Vote so we could participate in that campaign. And to all the people in our congregations who organized, got cards and stamps, printed addresses, mailed the cards, and not just for this campaign, but all the campaigns. I am filled with joy and gratitude when I think of you and all you do. And now we're going to hear from Susie McCrae.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Dave and Susan, for your reflections. And so wonderful to be here with everyone from Massachusetts to Florida, places in between and afar. As Dave posed, what will we do when we see injustice? As UUs, we're called on to respond to injustices. It is a moral imperative. Our 7 principles may be challenging, but they are meant to guide us. We need to fight for the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And that means that every person should have their voice and their vote heard. We need to fight for the planet. We need to fight for democracy. We need to fight for justice and equity for all. We can't do this work alone. Through our congregations, we've had the opportunity to work together in our communities, connect with folks in other states, and be two of 450 UU congregations working on UU the Vote. As we are all too aware, the work is not over. Let's renew our commitment and let our faith guide us. Our postcard and letter campaigns have been amazing. Now it is time to make phone calls. Not because it is fun, but it's because we have to, and it can be fun. There are many opportunities to make phone calls. If you're looking for camaraderie, our racial justice team here in Northampton will be hosting phone banking parties every Tuesday evening, starting next week. But please attend a training first. This first one is tomorrow night. That's with Reclaim Our Vote. But there's lots of other phone banks going on throughout the country, many, many ways to get involved. So I'd like to encourage everyone to do that. And to get energized for the next number of days ahead, UU the Vote has a special event planned for this Wednesday called Gather the Spirit, Harvesting the Power of Our Faith in 2020. For ways to get involved, look for action updates from both Dave and Susan, and start today. Keep up the good fight. Fight with love, hope, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you to Susan, Dave, and Susie. And welcome. Oh, well, that's what we're doing. Welcome to everyone who has joined us. Whenever you join us, some of us were mixed up about when the service started, which is very understandable. We deliberately chose a time that would confuse everyone. So we're so grateful to have you and everyone who is still coming, whether you came early or you're coming late, it doesn't matter. We're just very grateful to have you all. So we invite you now to turn your videos back on and go into gallery view and just wave hello to everybody. Look at all the people you know, all the people you don't know from across the country, north, south, and everywhere in between. Good morning, welcome. It's so, so wonderful. We have, how many people do we have on this screen? 147, so there's probably at least 170, 180 of us here together, which is just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful feeling. Unitarian Universalists together, from all over around the country. Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. This is our, clapping for each other, clapping for all of us. And now, let's join in singing. This is actually hymn 155 for any of you who happen to have a hymnal. But if you don't, we're going to post the words as we do, and we're going to sing, what's it called? Circle Round for Freedom. We'll sing it through twice.
For all
And now Helen has a story for us. Helen Rivers is the Director of Religious Exploration, Director of Religious Exploration at UU Church of Tallahassee.
Hi, friends. We have a story today called Be Kind in All You Do. And you know that sounds familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Where have I heard that before? Oh, yeah. It's our second principle when we use the kids version, be kind in all you do. So this is a story about a little girl named Hannah. If Hannah had taken one more step, she would have crushed him. Luckily, she looked down at precisely the right moment. Oh, sorry, little guy. I didn't see you there. The little bee gave a half-hearted buzz in response. He was exhausted, which was why he was lying in the middle of the sidewalk in the first place. Hannah couldn't stand the thought of the bee staying on the sidewalk to be crushed under someone's shoe. She pulled a paper from her backpack and gently slid it under the bee. Then she used it to carry him home with her. What have you got there? Her mother asked when she came in the door. A bee, Hannah replied. He needs help, and I am going to help him. Well, then I will help you. She helped Hannah mix sugar and water on a teaspoon and set it on the counter next to the bee. Carefully, she nudged the bee up to the edge of the spoon, and they both watched in wonder as he extended his tiny tongue and began to drink. He'll be ready to fly back to his family soon, Hannah's mother said. We better put him outside. Just as carefully as she had brought him in, Hannah carried her little friend out to the garden. She set him down under a nice shady leaf and turned back inside for her after-school snack. The bee was still a bit dazed, but quickly regained strength. Just like Hannah's mother said, he was soon ready to fly back to his family, and boy did he have a story to tell. It was amazing, he later told his friends. There I was, lying on the sidewalk, totally sure I was going to be crushed under someone's shoe, and then, out of nowhere, this thing picked me up. What happened next? His friends asked. I'm not really sure. The next thing I knew, I was drinking something sweet, and then the thing put me down and I started to feel better. That's wild, said his friend. I'm glad you're back. We have a whole lot of honey to make. Back at Hannah's house, she was helping her mother make the challah for Shabbat. We usually braid it, Hannah said. Why are you making it round? Because we're celebrating Rosh Hashanah, her mother said, Jewish New Year. The round challah represents the circle of life. We'll dip it in honey for hopes for a sweet new year. I'll get the honey, Hannah said. She rummaged through the cabinet of baking supplies and boxes of tea and eventually came up with an almost empty jar of honey. Oh, said her mother, looks like we'll need a new jar for the new year. Let's finish this and then we can go visit Kate. Kate was their neighbor and a beekeeper. Hannah was excited to tell her all about the bee she had met earlier that day. He was just lying there on the sidewalk, Hannah told her excitedly. I almost crushed him. No way, said Kate, smiling. What happened next? Hannah told Kate all about her afternoon adventure as they walked together outside to look at the hives. When he saw Kate and Hannah coming, the bee turned to his friend. That's it! Oh, it wasn't a thing. It was a person like Kate who saved me. That's them! He flew up to get a better look while Kate was telling Hannah all about the bees. So they collect nectar from flowers and bring it back here and turn it into honey. Then when they're done, I collect some of it and put it in jars for people like you and your mom. That's awesome. How? But her question was cut off when a bee flew right in front of her face. Oh, hi. Is that your friend? Kate asked. I can't be sure. Hannah replied, but he sure does seem to know me. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for saving me, the bee exclaimed. But all Hannah heard was buzz, buzz, buzz. Come on, said Kate. It's getting late, and you'll want to be home and ready before Shabbat starts at sundown. Kate handed Hannah a jar of honey. How much do we owe you? Hannah's mom asked. This one's on the house for Hannah being so kind to our bee friend, Kate said. Happy New Year. That night, after the candles were lit and the prayers were said, Hannah dipped her challah in the honey, and it tasted sweeter than it ever had before.
Greetings, Unitarian Universalists. I'm Susan Frederick Gray, president of your Unitarian Universalist Association. This is the season of ingathering, a time when we celebrate the beginning of another congregational year, another year of ministry, another year of holidays and holy days. Across our association, hundreds of congregations and tens of thousands of Unitarian Universalists mark this time with special celebrations, coming together to remember the life-saving, life-affirming value of our religious communities. We are living in heartbreaking, precarious times. There is so much grief to hold and so much injustice to withstand and resist. If you are struggling right now, feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed, I can tell you, you are not alone. It's times like these when we most need to reach out for help to one another and in community. Times like these when we need practices and opportunities to remind us that we are not alone, to bring to the altar of life all that we hold in our hearts, and to feel the support of beloved community, which is a continual source of courage and resilience. In-gathering celebrations are particularly important because they remind us of our fundamental connectedness. It's so easy to feel isolated and alone right now. It matters that we take time to just pause, to breathe and feel the ways that we are fundamentally linked to each other, even across this virtual space. How we are fundamentally linked to humanity and to this earth. Part of the lesson of this time is to live more fully into the interdependence that is at the heart of our values. Two things I've said from the beginning of my time as presidency are, number one, this is no time for a casual faith and no time for a casual commitment to what you value most. And number two, this is no time to go it alone. And these words, this challenge, they continue to be true today. No matter the distance or how we gather, we are connected by unseen but real threads of care and intention, of the hopes we have for one another in this world. We are connected by our commitment to love and justice, and we are connected as Unitarian Universalists. There really is no script for this time, and yet our fundamental values haven't changed. We affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people, and we will not let up in our work for justice. Our commitment to equity and compassion in all things, our willingness to learn and grow, our honoring of the interdependence of all creation, these values endure, and they guide our way always. I am so grateful for the ways that you are caring for one another and the well-being of your community. May you also make time to care for your own well-being, to nurture and tend to the goodness that is in you. And as we all celebrate this time of ingathering, may we feel the strength, the love, the connection and presence of our wider UU community. For it is holding you, it is holding me, it is holding all of us. Friends, I send you my love, my blessings. I pray for you and your loved ones and your community. Take good care of one another. Blessed be, and amen.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love. We rest in this
We rest in this love. We rest in this love. Gathered here from Northampton, from Tallahassee, with music there from San Diego, with Reverend Susan Frederick Gray from Boston, formerly the minister in Phoenix, Arizona. What a wonderful morning here gathered all together. I invite you into a time of meditation and contemplation this morning. Take in a breath, feel your feet on the ground. Begin just by noticing where you are in your body, in your psyche, in your spirit in this moment. Perhaps you're feeling some of that grief and overwhelm that Susan Frederick Gray mentioned, mourning the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, feeling the anxiety of uncertainty as we move into the future. Or perhaps it's your own struggles or concerns that fill your mind and heart. Or maybe it's joy to feel the connection of all of us gathered together. Whatever it is, breathe in and notice where you start from in this moment. And then we're going to continue breathing in and out. This meditation is an adaptation of a meditation from Rabbi Shefa Gold. We begin breathing in and breathing out, imagining that we're breathing down into the earth as if we're a tree with roots. And then when we breathe in, we pull the air back up from the ground and then exhale back down into the earth. And we continue that way in our own rhythm, breathing in from the ground and breathing back down into the earth. The earth, the soil that is both the past, formed by the past as it's decayed to make rich soil, and also that soil which creates our future. Ground yourself, pulling the energy up as you breathe in, pushing it down into the earth as you breathe out. Feel how the past is joined to the future. And then we're going to change our focus. Now we're going to spread out. Let our breath spread out into the world. Breathing out, we're going to send our breath out in a wide circle. Breathing in, we're going to take in breath from all the interdependent web that surrounds and embraces us. So breathing in, pulling in from the web, the circle around us, and then breathing out to that web, as if you're a tree branching out with your breath. Continue in your own rhythm. Philosopher David Abrams connects this act of breathing to the present moment. Feel the space around you as you breathe in this circular fashion, branching out and pulling in. In a moment, we'll close this meditation, remembering that we can use this meditation to connect past and future, to feel ourselves connected in our interdependent web, and also to ground ourselves. If you need grounding, breathing down into the earth and pulling back up from the earth, that breathing is good for grounding. Breathing out in that circle and breathing back in, pulling in from that circle, that's good for feeling connection. And you can also breathe up into the sky and back down into your heart. It's a good way to raise your energy if you're feeling depleted. Now we return to our bodies in this moment, taking one more breath in and out, perhaps looking around the room to notice and find ourselves and bring ourselves back to the present moment. And with this, we close our meditation. Amen, 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 and blessed be.
Thank you, William. As we've said several times, we're here together in worship this morning in celebration of the UU The Vote collaboration, especially the collaboration between Tallahassee and the Northampton congregations. On our end, the idea came up because Massachusetts is so incredibly, decidedly blue. In fact, someone recently wrote a letter in the local paper complaining that there were no Biden signs anywhere in the area. And my comment was, why waste campaign money on that? But we thought it would be energizing to make a personal connection with people in a state where our efforts might actually make a difference. And so William and I consulted first, and then, as you heard, Susan in Tallahassee and Dave in Northampton connected, and we were off. We learned from you, you learned from us. It happens that I was in Tallahassee almost exactly a year ago. It was this very same weekend last year when I was there for William's ordination and installation. And some of you might then have wondered, because I did the charge to the congregation, why a minister you had never met was standing in front of you charging you, and I'm quoting myself, "I charged you to be faithful to your covenant and to let it quicken your hearts like a glorious rainbow overhead." So why would our two congregations ever think of working together? Susan and Dave and Susie gave us some answers to that one. And there's also some history on the way to answering those questions. Some of it goes all the way back to 1648. In the early New England colonies, notably in Massachusetts Bay, there was no separation early on of church and state. And the early colonists, especially the ones with power and resources, were Puritans. They were religious refugees from persecution under church and crown in England. And then in 1648, the Massachusetts General Court, urged on by the ministers of the Association of Massachusetts Bay, asked New England churches to gather and make explicit their agreement with the theological doctrines of the Church of England, which had now turned briefly Puritan in theology. That was spelled out in a document called the Winchester Confession. And at the same time, they wanted to make explicit their disagreement with the Church of England's hierarchical way of governance. So the Cambridge Platform is a document that was produced as a result of that gathering. Representatives gathered in the Meeting House in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and the platform affirms the colonial church's agreement with the theology, the Calvinist theology of the Westminster Confession, and it also outlines the principles and rationale for the form of governance called congregational polity. Alice Blair Wesley is a retired UU minister and a scholar. She writes that the Pilgrims and Puritans who came to New England in the early 17th century were, as I quote, primarily concerned with a theology of organization, how churches ought to be organized in the spirit of mutual love. She says they came to gather themselves into free churches in the liberty of the gospel. In doing so, they invented, or rather reinvented, what we call congregational polity, in which each congregation is independent and ecclesiastically sovereign. So we go our own way when it comes to governance. The spirit of mutual love, though, is at the heart of our heritage. And it is, when we're at our best, at the heart of the way we govern ourselves and relate to one another as individuals and as congregations. And as many of you know, Unitarianism eventually emerged from many of those first parish churches that had been represented in Cambridge 150 years earlier. Unitarian Universalist churches have been congregational in their polity since those very early beginnings. Blair Wesley explains that the Cambridge Platform explains and justifies how our churches work. It is heavily footnoted. It's hard to read. It's heavily footnoted with references to passages from Scripture. In it, free churches are groups of people who have covenanted to walk together as they are called by God to do so, and again, in the spirit of mutual love. They refer to the free and covenanted social practice of love. That is a sentence to chew on. The free and covenanted social practice of love. And what's critical there? Love and covenant. The ministers and the lay people who gathered to frame the Cambridge platform understood covenant to be the bedrock of the church, both within each congregation and between congregations. And our Unitarian Universalist Association Association of Congregations has covenant at its foundation as well. The next time you have a chance to look inside a gray hymnal, you will at some point have a chance again to look inside a gray hymnal. If you look inside the cover before the first hymn, you find the second article of the association's bylaws. And those bylaws, that second article, begins, "We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote," and then they list the principles and sources. And then after that, it says, "As free congregations, we enter into this covenant, promising to one another our mutual trust and support." As member congregations, we're bound to one another in covenant. We make mutual promises like the commitment to affirm and promote those 7 principles, and we do our best to fulfill our commitments. When those promises are broken, we commit to ask forgiveness, do our best to make amends, and begin again. Part of what the framers of the Cambridge platform said 380 years ago about the ways their churches were bound to one another, they said, taking thought for each other's welfare, consulting on any topic or cause where another church has more familiarity or information about a topic, 400 years ago, admonishing another church, even to the point of convening a synod of neighboring churches, sending letters of recommendation when a member goes to a new church, financial support of poor churches. So I think that the covenant to which I charge all of you in Tallahassee to be faithful extends to our sibling congregations as well as to our shared values and principles. And whether we're consciously aware of our history or not, today we are acting in the best spirit, in the spirit of what those Puritan forebears envisioned. All across the country during this time, we are showing up for our values and for each other through UU the Vote collaboration, through supporting each other through the pandemic. DREs and administrators and ministers have reached out to one another with ideas and coaching and technical support, and just TLC when people need a little tender loving care. Just this past Friday, William and I got an email from our Ministers Association telling us that they have set up a fund through which ministers can ask for financial help, respite, childcare help, and also inviting those of us who can contribute to help our colleagues contribute to it. The staff of the UUA have shown up, giving us encouragement and tools and very, very prescient advice in May about not hastening to go back to in-person, and also reminding us to pay attention to justice and inclusion as we make these decisions. Susan Frederick Gray reminds us that especially in times like this one, times of grief and worry, that there are deep, deep, deep truths in our 7th principle. We belong to and are responsible within a vast interdependent web, and so we need and we provide the support of beloved community for one another. It's all yours, William.
We are woven in a vast interdependent web, and one that also bridges the past to the future. It's so wonderful this morning to be talking about those Puritan origins and also to acknowledge all the ways that we pull from other traditions today, traditions that weren't even a part of our faith tradition back in those days. I'm reminded of that here today, the day which is for Jews the 2nd day of Rosh Hashanah, a celebration of the new year and a moment to take stock of where they've fallen short in order to recommit to living their deepest values. In a way, that's what we're doing here today. Here today, we are taking stock and recommitting to our deepest values. Let's take a moment and just workshop one part of that Cambridge platform that Reverend Janet mentioned, because while that very practical advice for showing up in a spirit of mutual love, that very practical advice is written for congregations and how they relate to other congregations, it can be applied within congregations as well. So the Cambridge platform advised consultation on any topic or cause where another church has more familiarity or information about a topic. Ask yourself, in the spirit of the Jewish high holidays, ask yourself, how well do I do this? How well do we do this in our congregation? In what ways do you as an individual actively seek out consultation from congregants who have more familiarity or information about important topics? Can you bring to mind moments when you've been humble enough to acknowledge when that person isn't you? And bring to mind times when you haven't. When you are in a position of leadership in your congregation, when you've been in that, bring to mind those moments. In what ways did you consult with the congregants you represent as part of your discernment process? Especially those who have expertise in some aspect of their lived experience that was important to the topic at hand. Ask yourself, when someone else was in a position of leadership, how did you empower those leaders? Or in what ways did you second guess their decisions, even when they had engaged in a thorough and thoughtful process of discernment? I'm sure that you can bring to mind some examples, even just from the past year, both in your personal life and in the life of your congregation. This opportunity for consultation is a gift. It's a way that we can branch out and support each other. It's a way we can widen our circle. Reverend Janet and I agreed that she would talk about the Cambridge platform this morning, and I would talk about widening the circle of concern, the new report from the UUA's Commission on Institutional Change. A little background. Following the outcry surrounding the Southern Regional Lead hiring process in 2017, at that year's General Assembly, a Commission on Institutional Change was given the charge to, quote, conduct an audit of the power structures and analyze systemic racism and white supremacy culture within our Unitarian Universalist Association. Reverend Janet mentioned speaking last year at this time at my ordination and installation ceremony. What a joyful day that was. Another colleague who spoke at that ceremony was the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, chair of the Commission on Institutional Change. This commission worked for 3 years, conducting multiple focus groups, surveys, and interviews. In all, transcripts of the testimony, focus groups, and individual interviews totaled over 650 pages and more than 80 hours of audio and video interviews. And while an open call for testimonials was made, the commission made a commitment to prioritize gathering feedback from those most impacted by racism: Black UUs, Indigenous UUs, and other UUs of color. A moment ago, I asked you to reflect on those moments when you've been perhaps in a position of leadership and have sought consultation from those with the most lived wisdom in your process of discernment. I hope now you recognize in this moment that the Commission on Institutional Change did that work. I also ask you to reflect on the ways you have responded to your congregational leaders, encouraging you to reflect on the ways in which you second-guessed leaders, even when they had more expertise and had engaged in a thoughtful process of discernment, and those moments when you have had the humility to honor another's wisdom. I hope you recognize that the Commission on Institutional Change did that work of consulting with those with the most lived experience of racism in our congregations and in our association. This is a time to honor the wisdom of this commission and the Black UUs, Indigenous UUs, and UUs of color who shared their stories of the weight of racism in our association and our congregations, a burden placed upon UUs of color through both individual acts of racism and policies that privilege white people and white cultural norms. Too often, I notice the conversations around anti-racism, multiculturalism, and inclusion are framed around getting more racially diverse people to show up in our congregations. But those people are already here. Black, Indigenous, and other UUs of color are already in your congregation. LGBTQIA+, and differently abled, and neurodivergent, and Me Too UUs and Say Her Name UUs are already here in our congregations. This isn't about widening the circle of concern for some imaginary people we hope will arrive tomorrow. It's about showing up for those who are already here among us, who are us. Now, when Janet said she would look at the Cambridge platform, I thought I was getting the sweet end of the deal. And maybe I was, but the Commission's report is almost 200 pages long, including sections on theology, governance, hospitality, accountability, innovation, and living our values in the world, to name just some of the breadth of their work. I'm going to summarize their main points in 4 sentences. Number 1, we need to look at all the ways that we default to white cultural norms, forcing others to assimilate to these norms if they want to fully participate in Unitarian Universalism. Number 2, we need to place a commitment to anti-racism at the center of our lives as Unitarian Universalists, including reflecting on our cultures and policies that are at work in our congregations. Number 3, these efforts to actively counter racism can also help us to counter other oppressions, such as ableism, homophobia, transphobia, and misogyny. And number 4, if we do this work, this deep, challenging work, if we commit to it with our whole heart and mind and spirit, we will all be the better for it as we grow our souls together. And there's a warning in the Commission's report as well, that if we don't do this work, we'll become irrelevant. So how do we do this? Of course, the answer is multifaceted. And I encourage us to use the Commission on Institutional Change's report as a workbook to bring their recommendations alive within our association and our congregations. But there is a place that we can start. We can start by placing anti-racist work at the center of our Unitarian Universalism. What makes Unitarian Universalism unique, what makes us unique, is our commitment to freedom of belief. It's a wonderful thing. We should never forget that. But when we make freedom of belief an end in itself, when we place that at the center, we turn it into an idol, a golden calf. And just as we have at times mistaken our congregational autonomy for congregational isolationism, we have too often made our individual exploration the center of our spiritual life. But freedom of belief is not our end goal. To paraphrase the Commission on Institutional Change's report, freedom of belief is meant to promote diversity of thought, fueling the responsible search for truth and meaning, so that search can lead us toward beloved community, towards a collective wisdom that is shared between us. Also in the report, UU youth Paloma Kahlo is quoted from a sermon she shared at the UUA's summer seminary program in 2016, saying that the point of our faith, the center of our faith, is to be sanctuaries where telling our stories and engaging one another's healing and one another's pain can guide us into a new way of being, together in covenant. So in the spirit of the Jewish high holy days, which if you've ever been to a Rosh Hashanah service is a time of celebration and a time of critical self-reflection, may we welcome the Commission's report as a sacred audit of our Unitarian Universalism that calls us back to our deepest commitments. As Janet mentioned when she began the sermon, as congregants from both our congregations shared, this is why we joined together in our voter mobilization efforts, to counter racist voter suppression. And we're doing it with already over 2,500 postcards sent out from UUCT, over 10,000 from USNF. And the work that hasn't stopped there. This is why both congregations have hosted movie viewings and book groups, why we've had workshops led by our religious professionals and UUA anti-racism curriculum led by lay facilitators. That's why we at UUCT have a monthly BIPOC gathering and a newly formed White Allies for Racial Equity group, an anti-racist parenting circle. And I noticed in the photos on the slides before the service began that both of our congregations prominently display a Black Lives Matter banner as witness for the movement for Black lives. I'm so grateful that we have decided to take that step. And I want to also remind us that the banner is just the beginning. Flying that banner is a commitment. It's an entering into covenant. May we make ourselves worthy of those banners. May we live up to the promise they represent. As our UUA president, Reverend Susan Frederick Grace said, this is no time for a casual faith, and it's no time to go it alone. So may we root ourselves in our deepest values, and may we reach out to each other in the spirit of mutual love. May it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.
And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing together, "Come Build a Land." its justice. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where people together, empowered by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where people together, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where the oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where people together, empowered by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
You are invited now to share your financial resources, both with each congregation, and both congregations have Share the Plate programs whereby half of what's donated each Sunday can be shared with social justice partners in our local communities. Please, I invite you to give generously. Information on how to do so will be on the slide in a moment as you enjoy the following piece of music, and also in the chat.
one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle
I have to share with all of you this morning, I am surprised by how much joy I'm feeling about this coming together of UUs from across the distance. Thank you, Reverend Janet, for having this idea.
Thank you, Reverend William.
I have to take a moment of a point of personal privilege. Reverend Janet Bush is my mentor, so our congregation in Tallahassee benefits from the consultation I get to do with her every month. Thank you so much,
It is
Janet.
my joy and pleasure.
And we will continue our collaboration with our UU The Vote, and I'm sure in many other ways, as we connect the best of our past to our future, as we widen our circle within our congregations, as we breathe together and share in a spirit of mutual love, in the true reciprocity that is the reality of how the world works. With that, we extinguish our chalice both here in Tallahassee and in Northampton. I invite you, as we do each week in Tallahassee, inspired by the Church of the Larger Fellowship, to place in the chat, "We carry the flame," or "I carry the flame," as your own way of extinguishing the chalice. And I invite you in a moment after the postlude to join our social hour. More on that after the postlude. So as I mentioned, yes, thank you so much, Lemmy, for the music and all the singers as well for the music. I don't know actually how you all do this in Northampton. We normally take a short break, a body break. And that also allows those who don't want to stay for the social hour to exit the Zoom. But I do encourage you and invite you to stay for our very special social hour where we'll be moving into breakout groups for an opportunity to check in and maybe even some reflection time for the theme of the service as well. So back in 2 or 3 minutes for our social hour.
This is Kathy from the Unitarian Society, and we will begin our social hour, let's say in about 2 minutes. I'll start putting you into small groups. When you get into your small groups, I encourage you to say your name, your pronouns, and your congregation, what's inspiring you and going during the time, or anything else you'd like to share. We'll create the breakout rooms in 2 minutes. Everyone who's still on at that time will be put into a breakout room.
Hi, Kathy.
Hello. Hello. Please stop to share there. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, sorry to bother you. I was just wondering, I wanted to see if I can stop the YouTube stream or if I need you to do it. I think I might need you to do it. Can you, is it possible to just click on it?
Stopping it now.